Доброго ранку. Розпочинаємо роботу в
We start our working day at Ukraine Crisis Media Center, and the first briefing for today, presentation of analytical report, ethical code, proposals about codification. Svitlana Matvienko, chairman of the Agency for Legislative Initiatives, Kohut, director of USAID RADA, Olena Sotnik, People's Deputy of Ukraine, Ostap Yednak, People's Deputy, and later Serhii Leshchenko will join us. He is also People's Deputy. Good afternoon, dear journalists. We are glad to welcome you at our briefing, and we would like to share our success in our laboratory of legislative initiatives and the success of our partners, and to present ethical code of parliamentarian structure, content, topics, realities. And now we bring this document for public discussions, and overall work had the main idea. We established a dialogue with our partners and initiatives, and we tried to create conditions to establish dialogue on the problems that would create a code for parliamentarians, and we will spread this document among people's deputies and donors and experts. And for us, it is really important. Today, we were able to reveal the biggest problems, to carry out discussions with people's deputies. And this work, it was carried out with all factions and groups, and this is really important because ethic code should be initiated by the Supreme Council itself, and there are references to Constitution and to the agenda of the Supreme Council, and now ethical topics are regulated according to these legislative documents. These are issues of conflict of interests and different other aspects that prevent anti-corruption to be fully implemented, and also the responsibility for violations of the agenda of the Supreme Council. And we believe that this document will be widely discussed by the deputies, and we will hear proposals on improvement of this document and how we should move forward in this direction. At the moment, there is a problem that people's deputies do not understand why they need this ethical code and in what form it should exist. And we believe that values should be the basis of this code. And out of these values, we may build these new laws. So we would like to thank our deputies who actively participate in this project, Sotnik, Leshchenko, Yednak, and many other deputies who not only raise these issues, but also follow the events. And on the 3rd of February, we proposed for the deputies the intentions of work, and now we have 70 people's deputies who fully involved in this process on different topics: gender issues, anti-corruption, conflict of interest, lobbying, and other issues. So we invite everyone for discussions, and we are interested in the opinion of experts, and we want to complete the work on this document and to introduce it into the whole of the Supreme Rada. And we are interested how this document will look in its final version, and we believe that factions and groups will agree on this. And the speaker's position is also of importance because in many cases, lack of political will block many important processes. Now I give the floor to Igor Kohut for brief presentation, and then people's deputies will express their views on these topics. Thank you. Thank you, Svitlana. Dear colleagues, on behalf of US RADA program, I would like to greet the Legislative Initiative Agency and other partners who are involved in this important project. For USAID RADA, this is one of the expected results, the preparation of this code of ethical code and the introduction of principles of behavior and ethics, prevention of corruption, adherence to some principles and the professional principles of the deputies. We started this work rather long ago, and we supported cooperation with the OECD Institute, and we also started this discussion at the Supreme Council, and one of the key partners of USAID and legislative initiatives. They are actively involved in this process. They include foreign and domestic experience to codify existing norms of current legislation, starting with constitution and ending with the agenda of the RADA and anti-corruption laws. So this is one of the components of our work, the preparation of this codification, and we support the initiative of the Laboratory of Legislative Initiatives, that they bring this topic for discussion, and it is also important for the work of the Parliament. For a long time, as Svitlana said, for the last year we supported internal working platform at the Supreme Council in Ukraine, where people's deputies identified the main principles of the code, and I believe that this work is going to continue. For me personally, it is important to say that the issue of the code of they are in the roadmap of the reforming of the Supreme Council, and also partner organizations are interested in this issue. This topic is on the agenda of society on the whole. The issue of deputies' ethics and also NGOs are also playing major role in the media and in discussions in the Parliament, on TV. These issues further get more and more importance, and we greet active participation of people's deputies who are present here, that they actively involve in this discussion platform, and they took initiative in their own hands. That is the issue of internal organization, ownership for this document as code of ethics. And this document, this is an analytical paper, and this will bring awareness to people's deputies about legislation on parliamentary ethics, conflict of interest, declaring of their assets, lobbying, and this is the major step on the way to preparation of such document as ethical code of people's deputies. So, it is important to say the discussions continue, and there is support of 70 people's deputies, and the head of the Supreme Council, Andrei Porubi, also provides support for this document, and he pays a lot of attention to the issues of ethics and discipline, responsibility, and I hope that jointly we will continue this work, and USAID RADA will continue to support this activity. Thank you very much, Igor, and now I give the floor to Olena Sotnik, and to say that she is really interested in this process from the very start. Olena formed the first pool of people who started to sign declaration of intent, and we started to speak professionally about these topics, that the activity of the deputy is professional activity like doctor or teacher. Thank you, Svitlana. Thank you for invitation. Really, I'm really glad to be here. Igor and Svitlana are people who know me for a long time before I was a people deputy, and this is a benefit. They know me as I am. So we want to introduce ethical code, and the majority of people see all people's deputies as something one and something bad, corrupt, non-professional phenomenon. And this is really of concern. Level of support of this parliament is less than 5%, and it becomes smaller and smaller, and there are a lot of factors and information manipulations that they create negative picture. I believe that all parliamentarians who do something, and they want that society feels this difference between the deputies who try to do something, who try to be different, try to be new, professional, and to meet the world standards, and to represent Ukraine on a high level, not only in Ukraine but also abroad. They want that people see this, and the adoption of ethical code may help in this. And there should be responsibility in case people, deputies, violate this code. I will be honest, when we start this discussion, for me, it was a simple story, because there is experience of corporate ethics, and we know what it is. But this is more complicated process, especially in the dialogue with people's deputies, and both in society and in parliament. There is erroneous opinion that ethical code is the code of behavior in the whole. And maybe you saw Hromadske TV channel, and some interesting things were asked. So deputies said that these are 10 commandments, or that they should wear costumes, that they shouldn't swear. So this is narrow understanding what ethical rules mean. And we started to establish dialogues. We started with lobbyism, conflict of interest, corruption risk, and only on the 4th or 5th place the behavior in the whole issue arose, how the deputy behaves in and outside the hall. For example, some presence. I am a lawyer by profession, but I reveal that there are many articles that limit us, and I can assure you that people's deputies do not know about them. But sometimes, even if they know this, they believe that they are immune. So our task for today we raised this topic, we started to speak about it, and this is really important. And from the start, we should have clear understanding. And I agree with Svitlana and Igor. It is important that deputies understand that this is their document, and they are the owners of this document. Because this is connected with legitimacy of this document, whether they would adhere to it or not. And I would like that parallel, I have the idea, the initiative group of the deputies that today promote this idea of ethical code, that today raises this level of ethical behavior of deputies. And due to this analytical paper, we have a systemic ground, whole set of sanctions concerning people's deputies and violations, not only criminal responsibility, but also administrative responsibility, some issues of corruption, and we may follow practical cases. And even today, having this legislation, we may force law enforcement bodies and the Regulation Commission of the Supreme Council, because this body is really inert. And this paper shows that the result of Regulation Committee activity, unfortunately, the results of their work in this area is zero. No sanctions, no punishment. So additionally to this project, we should reveal practical things. Deputies, they are not gods, and they should bear responsibility, and they are equal before the law as all other citizens of Ukraine. Thank you, Olena. I thank Olena Sotnik, deputy from Samopomich faction. Olena mentioned important things. How does society react on this? And Independent Center of Prospect Research, they carried out focus groups, and they revealed that people want regulation in the sphere of ethical norms. And now I give the floor to Serhii Leshchenko, People's Deputy of Ukraine, faction Poroshenko bloc, and he is an active driver of this process, and he clearly understands that ethical code should regulate such things as conflict of interests, and to fight with this. And other issues, they are interesting, but in the majority of cases, people do not feel responsibility, because money from the budget, they just get lost due to misconduct of the deputies. So we should put dots on I's, and so my position concerning ethical code is simple. This is the main instrument to prevent corruption. NABU investigates corruption cases that happened, but it is better to prevent corruption when this corruption risk arises. When someone wants to use their post for enrichment and to prevent further corruption cases. For example, if you have business, you don't have the right to be, you have no right to regulate the areas on the state level. So Dubnievich, they have business, a supply of equipment to railway enterprises, and he is the member of committee on transport. So I don't believe that he doesn't use his position. and he blackmailed deputies of the ministers, and he said, if you do not nominate this or that person, I won't pass your draft law through my committee. So this is not just conflict of interest, this is corruption, and we may prevent this if in the parliament we had an ethical code, and when the heads of the committee are elected, so such people won't be able to get there. So maybe he would work in the sports committee, or for example, a committee for social matters, also banking committee. 3 members of the committees are bankers, and they work on the committee that regulates their business. Klimov, Demchak, Fursin. So at least 3 of them, but if we go deeper, maybe we will find more examples of this conflict of interest. So if we had this ethical code, they would go to another committee, and in this way we would decrease risk of corruptions. So there won't be such a conflict of interest. The third example. In winter last year, in December, the parliament considered the law on the budget, and the lobbyist of the cooperation, Nasha Ryaba, Mr. Kucher, stood up and did what is important for his business. He said about the amendment, about the limitation of state support to agrarian enterprise to bring it in one hand. So no less than 50 million in one hand, but the parliament didn't pass this. They didn't understand what it is. Some of them acted in collusion. So in half year, the country heard that Klesiuk got millions for his enterprises. So this was done in December, when this amendment was considered, and Kucher had the conflict of interest and didn't declare it and raised the issue, and his boss got billions from the budget. And if we had this ethical code, he would be deprived of such a right, and if he made this violation, there would be prosecution, and Ukrainian citizens financed one more oligarch for astronomical figures, but small and medium-sized enterprises should be provided with such money because they do not have political lobbying, and they do not have opportunity to get this money. So if we had this code in place, money would be distributed in a more fair way. The money that form our budget due to each citizen of Ukraine. So the adoption of this ethical code is one of the main anti-corruption instruments our policy needs. And I believe that due to our initiative in Ukrainian parliament, there will be the norms that act in many European parliaments and help to prevent corruption risk, and also will help to save taxpayers' money and would create more fair atmosphere. And now I give the floor to Ostap Yednak, People's Deputy of Ukraine. And he was in this process at the very start, and maybe he is going to tell us how the deputies that are outside the faction, how do they view this document. He provides us with consultation on this topic. So I would like to thank the Laboratory of Legislative Initiatives and the experts, and Netherlands and USA for this work, because for us, for parliamentarians, this paper codification is really important, and I would like to say that I hope that for next convocation of parliaments, when each of the deputies will get these documents, they will clearly understand in what laws and what legislative acts ethical behavior is considered, the transparency of finances, ethical code, the rules of behavior in the whole, and this will create quality in the process, and people elect different people in the parliament from different walks of life. Businessmen, unemployed, or any other person, and it is difficult that all these people would meet all high standards and the requirements. It needs time and ethical code. This is the new instrument in the parliamentary tradition, and it is really great that Ukrainian parliament is adopting it. And in Sweden parliament, they adopted it. Several years ago, they adopted this ethical code. So this process is correct. This is investment in the future, and also we should also disseminate this document in order to improve the work of our parliament and to raise the trust of the public towards the parliament. We hope that this document will be voted for by the parliament. We have time for questions. There are no questions. Thank you very much and goodbye.